profit did I make in my first 3 calendar years of launching my first Etsy brand? That's what we're gonna be covering in this video. I got this video requested quite a few times after I posted how much I made after my first calendar year, where I disclosed how much gross revenue I made. Like I said, the reason I didn't share it in that video is because there was so much other value, like really intense value and strategy that I was explaining, that I thought that was the true value. I share my numbers to inspire people. I'm not sharing them to like brag or anything, but just showing people what's possible. And the real value for your own business is the free strategy and the thousands of hours that exist on my channel of how to build an actual business, from how to hire employees, do inventory management, marketing, photography, ad strategy, all of that, that type of content exists in my business, which is more valuable than knowing somebody else's numbers. But the only other value that I would say that is valuable from knowing what my actual net profit is, like true value for actually helping your business, is understanding the makeup of all the expenses that exist in the piece of the pie of your business, and the psychology of why it's important to know this pie of your business. If your business is an engine, looks like this circle right here. Within that circle, you have a bunch of different pie slices, and those pie slices essentially make up all the pieces of your business. The really dangerous thing about not knowing the makeup of your business,
really put emphasis on why this is so important and why it's important to understand what your landed finished product cost is, including shipping costs of the raw materials too, including labor, including the actual raw material, including your packaging, everything. It's really important to know what, at the end of the month, what you spent on product at the end of the month. So not how much inventory you have or how much inventory you bought, but the cost associated with the items that you've sold for that month. That is called your cost of goods sold. And if you don't know that at the end of the month, that means that you have really no idea what exact items you sold and what that cost was associated with those items that you sold. So that's what your cost of goods sold is. Now, if you don't know the concrete expenses in your business, which is your cost of goods sold, your seller fees, which I put here 9.5%. It's really the 6.5% plus the 3% transaction fee. I just summed it into one, possibly your shipping costs if you're giving free shipping, right? If you don't know these major direct expenses associated with the sale of an item, then what happens is you are basically blindly running a business without knowing how much budget is left over to allocate to your marketing costs. And your marketing cost percentage, which you're not going to know when you first launch, could make or break your profit, right? So if you don't know how much budget or how much piece of the pie is left to even leave for your marketing costs, you basically have no KPI to go off of telling you, that your business makes sense or not, and you're actually turning a profit.
And you'll be very surprised. I've done a lot of consults this year, and before the consult even happens, I usually tell people to give me a breakdown of this pie chart of their business. Most sellers can't give this back to me. I'm going to be going over what that pie chart is for my business, and then followed by, obviously, what is my actual net profit? What has my net profit been for the first 3 calendar years since I launched my first Etsy brand? Like I mentioned before, like the real value out of this video isn't how much did Hannah make. The real value for you is relating this to your own business. And I also want to disclose that I don't share intellectual property for free of my brands. I still run brands at the same time. So I don't share things like store names or product titles and stuff like that for my own brand. Because as you know, if you own an Etsy store and you're an Etsy YouTuber, you're basically asking for store suicide once you publicly share not only your success, but then also your products. I mean, I've had people go straight to my listing and steal my images, buy my products. I've had Chinese manufacturers, which I don't have any raw material manufacturers from China, but I've had Chinese manufacturers buy my products, reproduce my products, and then I see them on Amazon with my own photography. So I don't disclose that valuable information for my own business. So if that devalues my channel and all of the hundreds of hours of content and information in this channel, please just don't follow me. I'm sure you can find another person to help you, or I would just say, just put in the work and figure it out on your own if you're that skeptical, because I don't want to share intellectual property that I've spent, thousands of hours to build. Let's hop into my computer screen. I'm going to screen record inside my Etsy account so we can do some number breakdown. I have all my monthly statements here. If I scroll down here, you see I didn't start the brand until July, where we made a whopping $44. Obviously, that's not even profit, but we'll go more into that later. And you can see I started gaining momentum August, September, October, November, December of 2019. We were doing almost $1,000 a day in sales. And for me, that was just like crazy. I was just launching as many products as possible. I was bundling items. I was just going into town. This was about 7 months before COVID happened. Basically for 2019, let me just write in the date here. We finished out the year doing only $67,000, but we really only started making sales in that August. So not too bad for the first couple of months. And then as you can see, when we get into 2020, so January was even bigger than December of 2019. And we just have continual growth. So I actually thought that COVID was gonna hurt my store because it wasn't like a necessity item. You'll see May, we had a really good month. June, all the months were pretty good. September was a little bit slower. And then once we get to December, we had our biggest month on Etsy. Now, if we move over into my Shopify account, I'll just show you some numbers on this as well. I didn't run any ads for my Shopify account in 2019. And then when we go into 2020, I actually started scaling some ads on Shopify in 2020. In 2020, I only ran ads really the last month of 2020. So it was pretty good that we still ended out the year on Shopify with about $174,000, which really good for only basically running ads, like seriously running ads on Facebook and Instagram for 1 month. So that brings out that year to, if we do a custom time here, 20 custom time frame to $945,000. Remember guys, I'm gonna break down the profit for a year in the next part of this. Let's move on into 2021 and let's switch this over to 2021. 2021 is where things got really interesting because, as you know, if you've watched my other videos, we dealt with 2 suspensions in 2021. We had to fight Etsy to prove to them that we were innocent, and we actually ended up getting all of my accounts back because they didn't just ban this account, they banned all the accounts that were associated with it. As you can see, we still had pretty decent momentum after that December, doing 74 and then 70,000 and then 82 in March. And then mid-April, we got banned for the first time for 9 days, got the account back mid-May, and then we lost it again at the end of May. But by the time that we got the accounts back, obviously it destroyed our sales. At the end of September, we still were able to pull in at least like around $9,000. And then we started building the momentum back up again. But those months really hurt our store. And if you haven't watched my other video of that whole process of how I got my account suspended and then how I got it back, make sure you check out that video. But as you know, if you've watched that video, it forced me to really double down on Shopify. So we go into 2021. What losing the Etsy accounts forced me to do was really double down on our processes, being able to, let me change that again, 2021. Losing my Etsy account really forced me to double down on my Shopify. So it forced me to really hone in on my Shopify account and really scale my ads, build a better website, build better products, learn more copywriting, do email marketing, SMS marketing, TikTok, influencer outreach. It was kind of a blessing in disguise because it taught me so much valuable things with Shopify. Our sales up to $486,000. Now let's talk about some profits. You need to know what all of your expenses are so you understand how much money you have left over to allocate for marketing costs, and also obviously what your actual profit is. And in the beginning, Just to give you some perspective, obviously this brand is not a good example because we were profitable right away, but my other brand was not profitable right away. It took us a full year to even be in the green before we actually started making profit. And again, that's all contingent on what you're selling, what demand there is for those products, how much competition there is, what your personal expenses are, so how much your cost of goods sold actually eats into that profit. It's different for every single niche and every single business depending on what you're selling. Remember, we did about $67,000 in that few months there in 2019, $67,691. And then we did like another like 1,000, I think, in Shopify. Let's just break down some of our expenses here. So we have an average overall 32% cost of goods sold. So that's the cost to create the product. That includes raw materials coming to the office. That includes the finished packaging cost to the customer. That's included in that total cost of goods sold, cost of the item. So 32%. Then I had ran around 8.7% just taken off the bat because I give free shipping. So 8.7% goes to shipping. That year, the seller fee, the Etsy selling fee was only 5%. It wasn't 6.5%. So you can take 5% off the bat. And then there was a 3% transaction fee. It's 3% plus 0.25 cents per transaction. But I'm just gonna put 3% and then add another percent because basically you have 25 cents per transaction on the transaction fee, but then you also have that 20-cent renew fee. So we'll just add another percent for that. Also spent 12% of the gross sales on paid traffic. So at Etsy ad spend. That brings us to our expenses at 61.7%. If I subtract 100, that's a 38.3% profit margin, which is pretty dang good. I don't think I ever saw that amount of profit moving forward. Now, if I multiply 38.3% times $68,000, that profit for those first few months there was $26,044. Let's move into year 2 on Shopify and Etsy when we did a little bit over 1.1 million. Again, we have that 32% product cost. We have an 8.7% shipping cost average. We have that year, I think it increased to 6.5% plus 3% plus that 1% that we're throwing in there. That year, my marketing costs increased because we started running paid traffic on Shopify, which is way more expensive. It was way more expensive than Etsy. So it made my marketing cost percentage go up to 16%. And then I also hired my first employee that worked very, very part-time, a few hours a day because she could be in and out real fast. That brings our total direct expenses to 70.2%, 29.8% profit margin. Let's move into 2021. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated because our marketing cost percentage on Shopify is way more expensive than it was on Etsy. 32% cost on our cost of the product, 8.7% on shipping. We have the 6.5% selling fee, the 3% transaction fee, plus the 1 extra percent. And on PPC, it increased to about 22%. It increased my payroll as well. So my payroll went to about 8%. We went from having, over almost 30% profit margin previous year, and then it dropped to about 18.8% the following year, which is still it's not horrible, but my expenses did increase because I'm hiring more employees, and I hired the new employees at the worst time, right when everything was like crashing, because I was planning for more growth and more expansion, but then obviously we had to backpedal and hone in on Shopify. We still ended out the year with about $170,000 profit margin, which definitely not mad about at all. But once you hit a number, it kind of hurts a little bit to see you regress, but that's all business. That's how business is sometimes. It's not just like upward hill of like rainbows in sunshine all the time. I hope you got some value out of this video. I hope that you understand the importance of knowing your profit. That's the real value out of this video, not how much money I made. It's learning how to be able to analyze your business as a piece of a pie and being able to look at your P&L at the end of the month and make data-based decisions based off of what's selling, what's not selling. Also, by doing a layout of what your margins are, you can highlight what you need to fix, Maybe you need to get your operations costs down. Maybe you need to get your costs down. When you have everything laid out for you, it helps you make those higher level decisions on where your money is best spent. I actually have a profit calculator that you can have for free. It's what I used when I first started out. It's a Google sheet that you can grab below. You can go ahead and make a copy of it and start laying out the costs for your own products. Basically what you're gonna end up with is an average cost percentage, an average net profit percentage based off of all the SKUs and all the listings that you sell. If you haven't already done that with all of your products, I highly recommend that you do that with that sheet. It's a free sheet. Go ahead and grab it for yourself. I hope you got some value out of this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.